Gentlemen, and welcome to My Life, My Say. You look at your gorgeous panel. Just look, everyone smiles. Is already enough for me. Welcome to My Life, My Say. My name is Swazi. We're going to give people about a minute or so to log in, and if you're here for the first time, a huge welcome. This is a new digital space in lockdown to bring in some really brilliant minds and young thoughts and young leaders to kind of unpack some big topics that we're talking about. And so in about a minute or so, I'm going to kick things off. So grab your drinks, grab your snacks, get your dinner ready, and lock in for a good hour of what's going to be a really good conversation. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Swazi, and you have landed in the #1 place to be on a Thursday evening. This is, of course, My Life, My Say, quarantine question time. It's a brand new digital space for young people to come through. And as you can see from the panel in front of you, we're going to have a very good conversation tonight. Tonight's topic is all about race and police brutality. And so this is quarantine question time, boy. You better bring your questions because we've got some really good people on the call tonight to go with this flow. So yeah, in about a minute or so, we're going to kick things off. Get a drink, grab some snacks. We've got an hour to go and we would really love to hear your questions. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And if Mete is listening, I'm going to kick things off because I'm too excited to wait for another minute to pass. So, good evening. My name is Swazi, and welcome to another event of Quarantine Question Time, hosted by myself and My Life, My Say, a digital space for young people to receive expert advice on issues that impact young people. So if you're young and you've stumbled across us, welcome. This is for you and by you indeed. For those of you who are joining us and you're new, welcome. We love new visitors, and if you've been here before, then of course, what's poppin'? We love to have you as well. This show takes place every Thursday from 6:30 p.m. Please follow us on the socials at My Life, My Say on Twitter, and be part of the conversation using the hashtag QuarantineQT. We'll be following up this hashtag to get your questions and your comments because it's going to take all of us to band in with this conversation. Before we kick off this evening, and believe you me, we've got a lot to be talking about tonight, I want to hand over to Telly Lawal, Engagement Manager of My Life, My Say, to say a few words about tonight's event.
Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in and thank you to all the lovely panellists and of course our wonderful host Swazi. Glad to have you here. My name is Telly, Engagement Manager at My Life, My Say. We are a youth charity that is trying to engage young people into democracy and to talk about issues that we're going to be speaking about today, so race and police brutality. For me, being a young Black person during this time has been difficult, sharing our stories. So for me, I can't wait. I've got my notebook out to see how I can gain some insight from all our wonderful panelists on how we can build on this momentum. And guys, I know you're excited, so I don't want to take up too much time because I know you want to hear from our insightful panelists. But please follow us on our social medias, My Life, My Say. We have got a wonderful quarantine question time with the leader of the Labour Party, Sir Keir Starmer, coming up on the 24th. So yeah, make sure you tune into that. Over to you guys, enjoy, and yeah, I can't wait. Bye everyone.
Thank you so much, Telly. Thank you. Yeah, me and you both, sis. I've got my notebook ready for tonight. If you've just joined us, welcome again. My name is Swazi. This is My Life, My Say's quarantine question time, where young people really can have your say. So without further ado, tonight's question is all about race and police brutality. Given all that we've been seeing, both in the US and here in the UK, it's a really important conversation to have. And so I'm going to introduce to you the wonderful people that you can see on your screen right now. And kicking us off, let me introduce the woman herself, an absolute queen to be joining us tonight. Dr. Shola is in the house. Hello, how are you? You're on mute,
I am well. I am chuffed to be here. Your energy, oh my God, I wish I was that young again, but please keep bringing it in. Keep bringing it in. Well, wonderful to be here with you all.
Amazing. Lawyer, activist, founder and editor-in-chief of the Women in Leadership publication, and just all-round hero to many of us. Dr. Shola is in the house. Leroy Logan MBE. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm really pleased to be here, being the person that needs a lot of energy. So I'm feeling it, just like Dr. Shola. And by the time I leave this gig, I'm going to be at 16 again.
You're too funny, you know. I'm so glad that you're on the call. Former Metropolitan Police Superintendent and Chair of Voyage Youth Trustee, Leroy Logan, right there for you. Frederick Joseph, trust me, this is an international panel, you know. We're going to jump the pond and go over to the US. American activist and founder of the hashtag Black Panther Challenge. Come on now. Hi, Frederick. How are you?
Oh, sorry. I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here, especially with my Black brother and sisters from across the pond. You know, we need to stay connected and talk about what's happening in both of our countries more often.
Yeah, amazing. No, we're definitely coming to you to hear all that's happening. And I believe you're in New York, I think, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I'm in New York.
Yeah. Nice. We've got the lady on the panel who's got the lighting down to perfection. Yeah, look at her, eye rolling, ready to Millie rock as well. Let's go. Nissy Tee, digital strategist and founder of the Power Class Masterclass. Hi, sis. How you doing?
Hi, Swazi. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Like, you're always, like everyone has said, on like 1,000, and I'm here like trying to catch up with you. But no, I appreciate it. I really do. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you guys. It's you lot fueling my energy, you know. When you can see the Zoom call, you just think, I'm excited for tonight. Noel Williams is in the house, British activist and chair of trustees for the London Village Network. Yes, Noel, what's happening?
Well, you tell me, you know, we both keep our energy high, so I'm up for it tonight. I can't wait for what's about to go on, power to the people and all of that sort of stuff. So, yeah, look, when it's my time, I'm ready to shine a light on a massive situation for our people. So thank everybody else on the panel as well, some special people there and some people that I know. I see a lot glowing over there. So I think it's going to be a good evening. Big up, people.
You know he's going to give me a run for his money, Mete, don't you? Noel's going to come for my energy, boy. And last but certainly not least, it's a real honour and privilege to introduce you Jennette Arnold OBE, London Assembly member of for the London boroughs of Hackney, Islington and Waltham Forest. Jennette, it's so lovely to introduce you. How are you?
I'm great, and I just want to send all the energy from Hackney, Islington and Waltham Forest. I have to say, the best 3 boroughs in London.
Don't start too early, you know, we're not even halfway through, so I'm coming for you. Amazing. So you have now heard a little bit from everyone, and we're going to dive into some of the questions. But before I do, I just want to make sure that everyone understands how this Zoom call works. So if you're new to Zoom, you will see some functionalities at the bottom of your screen, one of them being raise your hand. Throughout this event, you will have the opportunity to make your own comments or ask questions to the panelists. And in order to conduct this in a fair way to allow everyone the opportunity to speak, you will need to indicate by clicking the raise your hand function. I'll then call your name and you can have the floor and ask your question to the panelists. There's also the Q&A function. So if you don't want to speak, that's absolutely fine. You can type away your question in the Q&A feature. We'll pick those questions up and still share them with the panelists, so no problem there. And we've also got a live polling feature. We will be practicing democracy in action by giving you the opportunity to vote throughout the event. This is going to pop up on your screen real soon, because our first poll for the evening, or really the main poll for tonight, is this question. How do we all build on this moment? How do we all build on this moment? We've put 2 options up for you to vote for. One of them being activism. So that's much of what we've seen in the recent days, from protesting to speaking out in all sorts of ways. And number 2, policy. There's many laws that we can put in place and things that we can do to build on this moment. So you've got about 2 minutes or so, or maybe 5 minutes to vote. We want to collect the votes at the end of the show. So how do we build on this moment? Activism or policy? Since we're going to be joined by Frederick in New York, and just to get the landscape of what's going over in New York, let me go to you first, Frederick. For young people, which one do you think will come out on top?
I think right now, the sentiment is going to be activism. You know, we've seen over the last few weeks, especially, that realistically, we've made more change in New York and around our country by pushing back and being heard, you know, than we've made in almost 50 years, you know, from things like police brutality, you know, to even now, Minneapolis is starting to defund their police, right? And that came from activism, as opposed to just relying solely on the politicians, who a lot of them are in bed with the same people who are causing the issues.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. Dr. Shola, you're nodding. Are you in agreement with Frederick, or which one do you think young people will land on?
No, my brother Frederick is absolutely spot on. I think that we are currently in a climate where activism speaks louder. When you talk about policies, remember that we do have legislation that's meant to address discrimination. We do have legislation that's meant to give equality, but it means jack all when it comes to Black people. And why is that? It's because the people with the power do not give, I know you're young, they don't give a rat's ass about our liberty and our lives. So we need to speak out much clearer about this. It means that right now we have power in our expression, we have power in our authenticity, and that power, especially from the youth, and what I'm seeing from the youth is just beautiful. I'm loving the fact that it's youth from all race, all faiths, all background. There's so much power in that, and that is what you have to maximize. And bear in mind, our policy will only be as effective as the people who have the power to execute the policy can actually make it so, right? So in America, you've got racist Trump. In the United Kingdom, you've got racist Boris Johnson. Please tell me how your policy is going to work. That's my Nigerian side showing up. Like, please, people, put it in the reality. Okay? I shall stop now.
No, we're coming back to you, I'm sure. Let me bounce over to Leroy as well. Wondered if you could balance it for us, or I don't know, which one do you think will come out on top for young people, policy or activism, given this question?
Listen, it's by the results, and the results are activism. Not only in this issue, which is critical, you know, we've seen a momentum, and this whole movement is through energy and activism. So, you know, I think they can't stop this snowball from rolling and getting building and building. And I really think that that's what is people's attention and getting results. So I'm with everyone on that one.
Yeah, amazing. Jennette, you can go. You've got your hand up. That's very patient of you. You can go.
Well, I'm going because I can't find this golden hand on Zoom. But let me just say, firstly, it's just great to be here and to be part of this panel. And you know, I immediately that I first saw Dr. Shola, I've been following her, so it's like great. I'm just like sending her all the love, and I think that the work she does is great. And also, she swears so good, and I don't, so I really admire that. But let me just say, and this, you would say maybe this is because I'm a politician. I hate binary choices. Life, and maybe that's why we're in the position we are in. Life is not about binary choices. Life is not about black, white, in, out, what have you. You cannot bring about systemic change unless you have the policies. But we know, and I agree with everybody, the policies can be made, put to the side. Governments change. There are people like myself who keep on, you know, cycling for 20, 30 years, and we help produce the policy, and the power makers change. You cannot have activism. I cannot have activism alone. You must have policies. You've got to then move that resistance into action. And so we've got to encourage our young people to say, if you get hold of the policy handle, then you can shift and see great changes.
Yeah. Amen. Nissy, you go. You're on mute, sis.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to kind of add to that. And can I just say as well, Dr. Shola, I'm also a huge fan, by the way. I came on and I didn't want to fangirl, but seeing as Jennette opened up the door for fangirling, I thought, do you know what? Let me enter into that gate. I follow you on Twitter. I'm a huge fan. I think you're amazing. Just in general, I just admire you so much. But yeah, I think I just wanted to kind of echo what Jennette had just said now. I think, you know, it's so funny how we always see everything as either separate or divorced, and the two go hand in hand. There is an intersection where the two meet. People need to understand that, yes, of course, activism works. Activism has, you know, as Frederick mentioned before, activism has shown that certain changes are happening that we would have probably not seen for another 20, 30, 40 years if we left it purely to but in 20, 30, 40 years, when the momentum has maybe not necessarily died down because people don't care, but just because people are human beings, people have their own responsibilities, their own worries in life, people have got their own things that they've got going on in their life. So when we might get to 10 years time and people are not on the streets protesting, it's those policies that are going to establish the society that people live in. So it's really, really important that we make sure that, yes, be an activist, protest, do whatever it is that you feel necessary to do, but we need to make sure that we're also having those conversations with lawmakers, law changers, etc., so that it's not just something that we get to enjoy, but that we can ensure that it's engraved into the very structures that our children and our children's children will have to be a part of as well. So I would definitely say that we need to make sure that the two are closely aligned.
Yeah, the crossover is so important. Don't worry, Noel, we're coming to fangirl you as well, because I saw you just, you know, making sure that you had your face ready for this one. Noel, give us your thoughts, man. You've got the two options there, and I totally agree. They're not binary decisions, but can the two come together, or do you think young people will fall into activism or policy?
I think they have to come together.
Don't do this to us, man. I'm really sorry. I might have to mute your call, sorry. Only because it's sounding like T-Pain and someone's put you on auto-tune. So we're coming back to you now. I need to get your connection.
But I think it comes down to bad leadership.
We can hear you now. Okay, even on mute. Don't worry, no, we're coming back.
No. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? No, please.
Yeah, go on. We got you.
Sorry. I think it's, I'm going to be short and precise, guys, because I don't know about my connection here. But I think it's half policy, half activism. Activism is the first line of politics. When the people are not happy with their leaders, the activism rises to the fore. However, no matter what policy is in place, it needs good leadership to steer that, as Nissy just said, into institutions which then bind the people together. So I personally think as long as we got activism at the fore, but we also need to have a change of the way we deal with our courts, our prison systems, our police and institutions. So that then comes within policy, and it does take a while to embed itself. So no matter what, I will always be out there, you know, flying the flag, activism first, but we need to know longevity lies in policy. As Frederick just said, people in New York have been able to break down barriers, and political decisions are now happening. Legislation is being pulled from police departments. It's that power that we're seeing making the change, but activism brought it to the fore.
I'm so glad your connection came back, you know, because I needed to hear every word of that. Thank you. We're coming back. He's giving me the thumbs up. Yes, so thank you for guys voting, and that was your poll. We're going to come back to the answers at the end of the show for that. So stick around to see which one won out really, policy or activism. And for you guys who have joined today, welcome. My name is Swazi. This is My Life, My Say. And today is all about race and police brutality. And because there's a lot of conversation around why are we talking about this in the UK? Surely this is a US problem. George Floyd died in the US. I want to just shed some light and maybe take 5 minutes of your time to share with you 3 cases really of Black people who lost their lives here in the UK at the hands of police brutality. And come back to the panelists. And maybe panelists, I give you my next question just so you can have some time to think about it. My question to you first will be, how have you used your platform to highlight George Floyd's death and the Black Lives Matter movement? How have you used your platforms to highlight George Floyd's death and the Black Lives Matter movement? And as you're thinking about that, for those of you who have joined us, I just want to give you some background as to George Floyd, because I can't assume that everyone on this call knows what we're talking about. George Floyd, a young Black man who died saying, "I can't breathe," when a white police officer knelt on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And by the 6th minute, he had become unconscious, unresponsive, and he later died. And from his death, we're seeing so many of the protests being sparked both in the US and here in the UK. And I think it's important to bring the conversation home to the UK and just give you 3 cases. So Jimmy Mabenga, 48 years old from Ilford, died on the 12th of October 2010. He died saying, "I can't breathe," when on an aeroplane, police security used excessive force whilst he was still sat in his chair. They handcuffed him, pinned him down to his seat, so much so that he was saying, "I can't breathe" on the plane, and he later died, and no one was charged. Christopher Alder, another case that I'm sure lots of people are familiar with. A young man from Hull died on the 1st of April 98, and he was 37 years old. He was arrested by police, and whilst in their custody, he choked to death with his trousers around his ankles, handcuffed and laying face down, which suffered his breathing and made it that he couldn't breathe. This was on the floor of a police station in Hull, Queen's Gardens police station. And what's shocking is that there's footage, CCTV footage, and you can hear the policemen laughing and making monkey noises around him as they left him to die. So that happened in 98, and maybe most recently, 2012, Sarah Reid, another really famous case of a young woman who was the center of a police brutality incident with a Metropolitan Police Constable, James Kiddie, who was caught, again, another case on CCTV, yanking her by the hair, dragging her across the floor, pressing on her neck, and punching her several times in the head. Kiddie was accused of her shoplifting, later convicted, but dismissed from his job and given 150 hours community service. Again, no charges pressed. Sarah was later on wrongfully arrested, and she died in Holloway prison. I don't give those three stories lightly at all. I give them to say that what is happening in the US is also happening here in the UK. And if we think that a George Floyd is far from us, we're deeply mistaken. It is happening here, which is why we protest, which is why we raise our voices, because so much change needs to happen at home. And so now I want to open up the conversation, and if you've got questions, use the Q&A function. We're going to have speakers call in as well. But just to throw it over to the panelists, the first question that I shared: how are you using your platforms to raise awareness of both George Floyd's death, but also the Black Lives Matter movement here in the UK? And perhaps I could go to Frederick first, given that, yeah, George Floyd happened in the US. We want to bring it home, but we do want to hear from you as well. So yeah, take the floor.
Yeah, well, I think that in the U.S., and just I want to start by saying, actually, God rest the souls of all the people who you just named that were lost. So that's number one, first and foremost. But here in the U.S., we've been dealing with this epidemic of police brutality for generations. It's something that my mother dealt with, my grandmother dealt with, so on and so forth. So I feel like for many of us, it's in our souls that we have a duty to do something about it, right? If you have a platform, like my platform was built writing in the entertainment space and things like that, building my marketing agency, so on and so forth. And in everything I do, I have to make sure it's interwoven with Black Lives Matter, not just as a moment, but rather as a movement. Literally, I eat, breathe, and sleep that, right? So for a moment of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, David McCarty, Toy McDade, so on and so forth, all these people who we've lost, I think that it's up to me and all of us to educate on a consistent, constant basis, from posting things about awareness to holding people accountable, because like you said earlier, we can't assume that everyone even knows who George Floyd is, right? We can't assume that I know of the police doing the heinous crimes that they've done across the pond, right? But I'm over there all the time. I would love to get with, Dr. Shola or Nissy or Noel or any of you and get out there and fight for Black people in any country. So that's why we have to be doing the work. It's our duty.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me jump over to Noel actually and just hear about how you're using your platform. Tell us a little bit about your platform and how you're using it to raise awareness, both for George Floyd, but also the Black Lives Matter movement here in the UK.
Well, it's quite funny because I'm using my platform to fight for any forms of social justice. And at the beginning of the coronavirus crisis, 13 weeks ago, I became an essential worker, and I've been providing a free meal for NHS staff on Thursdays. So we call it Thankful Thursdays, and today was that day too. And I've been getting in there from the beginning, risking my own life. At the same time, I was also an essential worker for a food bank where I've been giving sanitary towels to women that are in trouble because they're the breadline of poverty. And I think those are the things that separate us as great human beings. But then when the Black Lives Matter, is kicked off in the last 2 weeks, I think it's only right that I also use that platform to express myself, because as somebody who fights for social justice for all, this is a cause that's totally for me. So what I've been doing is I led 16,000 people from Hyde Park to Brixton when we had a march. And on that march, I was giving them a little bit of historic understanding about police brutality within Brixton and riots that have happened around the country. Because as I said, activism is one thing, but educating people, I think, is where we're going to get more power. And I think also the most powerful thing that I've been able to do is on Tuesday, I'm, for instance, taking over a platform that has 200,000 followers. It's a lovely woman from Slim Fast, you know. She also just wanted to help out the cause. So I'm trying to put myself on platforms to allow people to ask such questions, to educate people, and on the other side of that, fight for social justice and policy and do what I can for all people. However, this moment, Black Lives Matter. So I'm trying to push what we want, which is simply equality. And that's all we've been fighting for. We're not asking for more. We're not asking for anything, just our just desserts and equality. So that's what I've been doing with energy, energy, energy.
Yeah, keep it up, man. We need you. We need you. We need you. Leroy, I wondered if I could come over to you as well, really, and just given your background, former Metropolitan Police Superintendent, you would be so familiar with some of the cases that I mentioned, and also even up to date now with things that are going on. And even today, you mentioned off air, if you like, about an incident that happened in Hackney. And so I just wondered, from your angle, how are you using your platform to raise awareness, but especially from the police side of things? How has it been for you?
Well, let me just say about that case in Hackney. It was a young man called Rashan Charles in 2017, and he suffered from a similar unauthorized chokehold where he sustained over a minute or two, where the officer was trying to get drugs out of his mouth after a brief chase, and he suffered asphyxia and eventually died after several minutes of being on the officer's unauthorized chokehold, and the officer was found not guilty. So as you say, I've been making sure that my activism within the Met through the Black Police Association and working very closely with all the other Black police associations across the country, because we know death and police contacts are not just in London, but all over the country. And we also work very closely with our brothers and sisters in the National Black Police Association in the USA and the National Organization of Black Law Enforcers in the States as well. So, you know, that's the platform that we set from over 20 years ago. And one of the pinch points was giving evidence at the McPherson inquiry that looked into the racist killing of Stephen Lawrence, and talking truth to power at that stage. We were able to put the pressure on in, even though, you know, we were influencing policy, but our activism and our pressure in the organization really has continued even now. And, you know, even in retirement, since I left the organization in 2013, I made sure that I'm working grassroots organization to make sure I've got that cutting edge. And, you know, many of the panelists here I've admired, and I learned from them. You know, Noah, we work together, a Youth Violence Commission, because again, that's a real issue of police brutality, you know, where, you know, pressure on young people has caused them to not trust police. They feel over-policed and underprotected. So, and unfortunately, it throws them in the hands of people that groom them and they manipulate. And sometimes they go into forms of gang activity, and we know about county lines, etc. So I'm making sure that we assist our young people to be empowered. And I know Jennette has been a real supporter of our Young Leaders for Safer City program based in Hackney. It's giving young people an opportunity to know their rights and responsibility. And we've got hundreds of young people who have gone through our course, and that's one of the few accredited courses where they get a BTEC level 2 and UCAS points if they want to go into further and higher education. So those young people are the platform, and we want to make sure that continues. And, you know, it's going from strength to strength. And obviously we can't ease the pressure. We've got to keep the pressure on.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And can I encourage you as well? I'm sure there's much of what you do that goes unseen and unnoticed, but knowing that you are there, knowing that you are a voice in that sphere is so encouraging and fills us with so much confidence. So thank you for all the work that you do. There's a caller on the line, but before I go to the caller.
Can I just say one thing? Just check out the Guardian article. I've got a pose that looks like Samuel L. Jackson, but it's talking about police brutality, and I would like you all to check it out.
Perfect. I think that marketing as well was really, 10-10 with that one. I think everyone was seeing now. Yeah, we'll drop that in the link as well for you guys who are online. We've got a caller on the line, but before I go to the caller, I just want to go to Dr. Shola, because you seem to be on every platform. Are you 1 minute arguing with Piers Morgan, and then the other day you got words for Nigel Farage? You seem to be everywhere. So I just wondered, what would you say to someone who does have opportunities to speak, and how do you decide the message that you're going to give? I'm sure different platforms require different messages, but
Right.
how do you decide when you go into those rooms, when you sit down, which message is it that you're going to share?
Okay, so let me first of all start by saying to the audience that you need to understand what a platform is, okay? A platform is whatever and wherever you have access to, period. So it doesn't matter if it's school, if it's work, if it's your favorite shop down the street, if it's the bus you're on, that is your platform, that is your moment. That is where you can do whatever the heck that needs to be done, okay? And for me, hearing what Swazi was saying, just the examples she was giving, now I know about them, but there is no time I hear about these cases that I do not feel the fury, the rage, the anger boil in me, okay? And I don't know about you, but my activism gets kicked off when I get pissed off. That's what triggers me. The moment I am pissed off about something, my Nigerian side is like, bring the wrapper, let me tie it around my waist, let's get in there. You don't know what I'm saying? Let's get in there. And I think that every one of you will find what triggers you. You don't need LinkedIn to call you an influencer for you to know you're an influencer. You are an influencer. You don't need to be on TV for anyone to call you an influencer. You have the power. And to your question, Swazi, about what message or how I decide what I'm going to talk about, for me it is truth, and I'm unapologetic about the truth, because you see, the anger and fury that I have can only be satisfied by the truth coming out of this God-given mouth. Anything less, I might as well just go back to sleep, right? So in this time, especially when we're talking about George Floyd and everything about police brutality, and especially what racism is, I find myself talking and educating, because I suppose that's what I'm doing. I'm talking about what racism is, because I understand that a lot of people, especially in the white society, think racism is just about hate. And they think racism can be, aligned or apportioned to, oh, it's just this race against that race. No. So I when I speak the truth, they don't like it. But you see, the truth shall set you free. As far as I try to explain to them, racism is a power construct. It's not just hate. It is a power construct created by white nations for the benefit of white people to deny an equal value of life and liberty to Black people. People, please don't make me preach, because that is the truth. And Black people do not have that power. We don't have a power construct in any way or form or manner that can make us deny any white person an equal value of life and liberty for generations, or even one life. Even if a Black person goes to a white person, go, oh, you cow, or whatever it is they want to call them, that's where it ends, that's all. But if a white person turns on a Black person like Amy Cooper did, heck no, they're weaponizing their whiteness. And because racism is so diluted, or people don't want to talk about it because it makes them uncomfortable, the real picture and vision of racism is it's too hard for them to bear. And I am not in the business of sugarcoating anything for nobody. So out of this mouth has to come the truth. And I have to say, that is racism. There's no such thing as unconscious bias. So whatever platform I have, whether it is at work, whether it is with friends, whether it is on TV, even if it means I'm getting into debates where I know that they're going to try to get me down. I know they're going to try to use whatever words or whatever power they think they have. What they do not realize is that I am walking in my power as a child of God. I'm walking in my power to be Black and proud. And they have not met someone like me yet, so I don't have time for their nonsense, as my people will say. So you know what I mean? My attitude, and I'll say to all of you, is it is time to take that energy you have, whatever it is that gets you, filled up, turn that energy, take it into action. And whatever that action is what triggers you into your activism and making you a platform where you can use your voice. And that includes talking to your parents. So if your parents are not talking, they're not talking the way they should talk, feel free to educate them, okay? That's right.
And say Dr. Shola told you to do it as well, so they can...
I know. I'll get into trouble, but that's okay.
That's okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're gonna have to rewind the tape and listen back to this whole conversation. There's too many gems. I believe we've got a caller on the line, and Nissy, I'm coming to you, sis. Don't worry, I've got a good question lined up for you. I'm coming. But I believe Chantel Lewis is on the line, and you may have a question for Jennette, I believe.
Hey,
how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. Let us know where you're calling in from as well.
I'm calling in from London.
Whoop whoop. Okay, cool. Fire your question, sis.
So just a quick question. Talking about policy. So if there was one policy or legislation that you would put forward to improve the lives of Black people, what would it be?
That is a fantastic question. Thank you. If there was one legislation you would put forward to improve the lives of Black people, what would it be? I believe that's a question first for Jennette, and then I'll open it up, of course, to the panelists.
Well, I'm stunned because I think it's because of what I was talking about earlier about the interconnectedness of stuff. Let me just show. I suppose the policy would be around what I'm working on at the moment. And that is, I'm a member of the Assembly's Police Committee. I was previously on the Metropolitan Police Authority. So I now, and Leroy will testify to this. So when I open my mouth, people listen. And because I bring truth and I bring evidence, because this is the other thing that we have to understand. We have to have the evidence, and also we have to have that evidence backed up by everybody. Leroy talked about a young man, and we worked on his case as activists to ensure that the truth wasn't going to be buried. Because when Rashan died, we saw that the machinery started working that was just going to label this young man as another young Black gangster. He was far from that. So it was working with Leroy and other activists, Hackney HCV, all the young people, to say, no, he is my brother, he is my friend. He was here, and he didn't come with any intention. So whatever the police were up to, they had false information. And I don't know what, I didn't hear clearly what Dr. Shola was saying, but they were acting because of their own prejudices. And it was, I believe, around their unconscious bias that they have not yet addressed, because their training doesn't equip them to work within, some of them, to work within our multicultural community. So they come with stereotypes. They come seeing every young Black boy as a thug. They come looking to see the Black man as being a threat to them. So therefore, they've got to take him down first. So I would stay with the work I'm doing now, and I would want a series of policies to ensure that the Metropolitan Police look to say that it does not need to still have the chokehold on its list of processes, because it still does, and people need to understand that.
Yeah.
And also that they understand and acknowledge and apologize for the way they behave when they follow profiling. And a lot of that underpins the disproportionality that we see. And just let me finish briefly. Last week I said to the commissioner, this is an issue. She said to me, but the numbers were small. And I had to say to her, it isn't about small numbers. It is about the action that is required. Because you know what? It could be my son, your brother. Because all that's happened out there, let us never forget that it could be happening to your neighbor today, but it's you tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that would be a suite of policies that I would want to bring together.
Thank you so much. And I understand there's so many callers trying to get through, and you guys are amazing. I'm going to try and get through as many of these questions as possible. I believe Bashir is on the line and wants to ask a question to the panel. Bashir, are you there?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, Bashir. Let us know where you're calling from.
Hi, and it's Bashir from London, and the reason that Jennette and Nissy are smiling is because I know them both very well, but I'm coming as someone who's a big fan of... And Shola, don't forget Dr. Shola from People's Vote Days as well.
Hey,
so,
bye.
Guys, and I had a question for Nissy, and it's the flip or reverse of what Shola and Jennette have said in terms of the risks that some people tend to find in speaking out, and it's quite hard to get to certain positions. And so when you're an influencer or things like that, sometimes there is a privilege of establishing yourself in a career, but sometimes people are quite scared of speaking out because, you know, does that mean that you lose opportunities? Does that mean that your job is now become quite tenuous? So for yourself, who, you know, you work with brands, you collaborate, you do things like that, have you ever thought about the risks that you may face or other people may face in speaking out that may result in them losing opportunities?
Yeah.
Thank you, Bashir. Sorry, can I jump in real quick as well and hand that question over to Nissy? First of all, Bashir, thank you so much for adding more energy to the show, as if we didn't need more energy already. And also, before I forget, I'm going to come to you, Frederick, on the same question that Jennette kindly answered around legislation and just some of the things I want to catch up with you about. But before I do, Nissy, let me give the backdrop to audience as well as to why this conversation is so important. Is because we know about cancel culture. We know that we're living in a time where when you say the wrong thing, you are dragged and you are shamed, and then before you know it, you're obliterated. So I think it's really helpful, Bashir. Thank you so much for raising that point. Nissy, over to you. How do you be careful about using your platform when speaking up?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Bash, for that question. First thing is, I'm not going to lie, you guys are going to need a part 2 to this conversation because there is so much that I want to say, and I'm trying to be really, like, keep myself together so that I don't, you know, but there's so many things that you guys have touched on that I want to talk about, but I'm going to try and stick to the question just for the sake of time. So in regards to what he said in terms of using a platform, I think this is where every individual has to make a choice. Now, I have always used my platform since the beginning of when I first started off Nissy Tee, my YouTube channel, and then it escalated to me doing speaking engagements and then starting off my power class program and all these different things that I do. I had to make a decision. Am I quite literally willing to die for what I believe in? Yes or no? And that's the truth. That is honestly the truth. And I know that a lot of people might be afraid of this answer. A lot of people might run away from it. A lot of people might turn around and say, oh, wait, that's a bit too extreme. If you truly do believe in something and you know that you've been put on this planet, God has created you as a vessel of truth, of a word, of something that you know will bring about change. There is nothing that can stop you from moving in that direction. Now, does that mean that you are not at risk of maybe losing out on opportunities? Of course not. Does that mean that you are not at risk of people maybe questioning, questioning you, questioning your platform, questioning what you're about? Of course not. But one of the things that I would say, if you truly are an individual who you know you have a voice, you have a platform, and you have something to say, please do not be afraid to say it. And one thing I'll say as well is that doesn't undermine anybody who wants to do it in a different way. By the way, I am 100% open to activism and protesting and policies in many different ways. I believe that everyone has a place and everyone has a part to play to this, to the changes that we want to see. So, for example, I got very angry actually because I actually I recorded a video and was editing a video that ended up being about 1 hour and 16 minutes long. I'll go and recommend everyone to go and watch it. It's on my YouTube channel, Nissy Tee, NISSYTEE. It's called Solutions. An hour and 16-minute long. After, by the way, I'd taken some time to take a step back because I knew myself, and I said, if I speak from just a place of pure anger, I'm not going to represent myself well. So I took a step back. I didn't say anything. I assessed. I read, which is very, very important. And I wanted to talk about education. Maybe we'll be able to talk about it a little later on. But educating myself about the cases, the Sarah Reeds, the Julian Coles, the Mark Duggans, understanding the intricacies and the nuances of each individual case. I did that first. Then people were emailing me and DMing me, cussing me out and dragging me, saying that I'm not doing enough. Why have you not spoken up about it? Why have you not done anything? I'm like, wait, hold up, wait a minute. Let's pause. You don't know what I'm doing behind the scenes. You have no idea what I am doing. So please don't question the way that I am doing things. If you choose to shout about it today, fine. But if I choose to take a step back and do it my way, absolutely fine. So the only reason that I say that is because I remember I spoke up about it and I said, people need to stop pressuring other people as to how they should respond. And I got DMs and messages from individuals who DM me and said, Nissy, I'm so grateful that you said that, because people don't know that I am behind the scenes talking. I'm a school teacher and I'm talking to people that are on board levels and head teachers, trying to see how we can deconstruct the curriculum. I am working behind the scenes in my workplace to make sure that we have a system set up. So all I'm saying basically is that, yes, I would 100%, if you have a platform and you know that you are willing to die for the truth and you're willing to die for it, you better run with it, you better go. But as somebody else, please do not also feel bad if you choose to do it in a different way. Don't feel bad for it. Every single person helps this argument.
Thank you. Thank you so, so much. And there is so much there that I want to spin over to Frederick as well. And kind of taking a little bit from what Jennette was saying, but this wave of activism or protest seems to have really brought a conversation around allyship in a way that is refreshing and very new, especially where I work and where loads of people work. And I just wanted to get the spark or the feel on the ground over in the US. Do you think that this time round has been a different feel for you guys? And why is it that there's a lot of, of our white brothers and sisters finally waking up to things that have always been there, but yet this time see it in a different way that hasn't been seen before? Do you find that over in the US? Because I think we're finding that in the UK.
Well, I think that on a global basis, it's too early to really see, to be quite frank with you. I think that there's moments in which, right, like it's no different than when you have LGBTQ plus History Month and everyone's focused on that, right? What I don't want is for us to have all these allies who have felt like they posted a black box and then disappear in 2-3 weeks, right? So for me, I think that it's too early to tell. I'm more interested in the systemic changes, right? You know, as Noel and Nissy and Dr. Shola and Jennette and Leroy, everybody said earlier, this is a long battle. This is not just about activism. This is also about policy, right? I think the question before was in terms of what policy would I see happen, right? And I think specifically in America and obviously also in the UK, this is a nuanced issue, and the ways in which Black people have been affected are not just in terms of police brutality. If we're going to really talk about it, it has to be, white supremacy impacts education, wealth disparity, social mobility, so on and so forth, right? So what I would love to see policy-wise is you start out with the basic fundamentals of resources. I want to see healthcare for everyone. We don't have that in the States. I want to see access to education for everyone, right? Because those are the two ways right there that we saw even during COVID-19 that we were most impacted. The ways in which we were disproportionately decimated in America in the Black community by COVID-19 shows you what issues we really have, right? Because now you have to look at two things. You have, on one hand, I was actually in the UK when COVID-19 started. I was flying back and I said, this is gonna hit us badly because we don't have the resources or the means to go without a job, to go without healthcare, right? And we've seen that happen. So now, not only do we have to handle that, I have to think about, my uncle lost his job. I need to help him out. And y'all are killing us. So not only do I have to help him out, I have to use the rest of whatever I have in my cup to get in the streets and support you from killing somebody else's uncle, right? So, you know, when we look at these things, I think policy-wise, I want to see things again around creating equity. I don't want to see a moment. I don't want to just see something about chokeholds. I want to see equity. I want to see reparations. I want to see, again, healthcare for everyone. And I want to see free college for us. That's what we deserve. That's what we need. And we're going to close this gap.
And real quickly as well, because I'm looking at the time and we're coming up to 10 minutes left and I'm trying to squeeze everyone in. I need to ask you first before I ask the same question to Leroy. Do you think the police in the US are institutionally racist?
Sorry. Yes.
Okay, great. I'm coming to Leroy next. I'm coming to everyone. Leroy, what about yourself? And really banding off of what Jennette's saying about questions and things that don't seem to come to light unless you really, really push. What would your answer be to this question? Someone's asking, is the UK's police force institutionally racist? And if I could ask everyone's answers to be clipped and short brief so I can get around everyone as well. Sorry, Leroy, you're on mute, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, I said it 20 years ago at the McPherson inquiry. I said with two other officers that the police service institution is racist and the disparities are just the same. Internally, you see black officers are 5 times more likely to be disciplined than their white counterparts. They're less likely to be promoted. They have to be twice as good as their white counterparts to advance up the organization. And the organization still has got that snowy peak or Guinness looking effect. White at the top, black at the lower ranks. And then outside, you still see stop and search. You're 9 times more likely to be stopped. If you're black, you're more likely to be tasered. You're 80% occupying the DNA database. You're more likely to be on the gangs matrix, which criminalizes young people, which is a real tragedy. So, you know, they are exactly the same as they were. In fact, as I said in my article, plug, I believe we're in a pre-McPherson era when things were bad. And, you know, and that's where, you know, I commend the officers who are out there doing the protect and serve piece properly. But I am really concerned about the systemic failures that do not address the disparities and allow rogue cops to carry on with their heavy-handed policing. And, you know, we've got to make sure that, you know, those little excuses of I'm in control, you do what you're told, and all the stereotypes and assumptions and the prejudices, not even unconscious bias. I'm talking about they're playing out their control, you know, prejudice with power equals racism. So that's the thing that we need to try and do. And in closing, I would say that the work that we're doing now, especially with bringing in laid bare by COVID and George Floyd and learning from our brothers and sisters in the States, is we need to have the race equality framework back, to put race equality front and center of all the policies that was brought in by the Race Relations Amendment Act in 2000 to ensure that it's not just about I'm not racist. How do you actively promote to cause the empowerment of Black people so they are on a level playing field and can be judged on meritocracy and not suffering disparities and the inequalities and injustices. So, and I would say it's not exclusive just to policing. I'm talking about health, education, housing, etc. So we need to ensure that we build on those recommendations. And there was a Home Affairs Select Committee review that's just been kick-started. I don't know if it's because people have been shouting about it to say what's happened to Lawrence 20 years later. Those recommendations and that's a good indication of how they moved on. And they're just asking for written submissions. So let's see they get those written submissions. And I would encourage everyone to put in a written submission to say, listen, this is what my testimony is of how this organization, the police service, is not fit for purpose.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you. And I'm going to jump off that to go to Noel next. But Dr. Shola, I want to come to you because we're in a pandemic. We're also in a pandemic called COVID-19, and lots of people have also described a second pandemic of racism. So I'm coming to you, sis, with another question. But no, I just wanted to bring you into the conversation and just ask, with so much happening online now and so much filming, do you find, even with the Amy Cooper situation that Dr. Shola mentioned, do you find that because people are able to be on social media now and to share things, that maybe some of your own experiences are like, I was saying this from a long time ago, but no one seemed to have been listening? Do you find that young people are leading the way now with the way that we're communicating and sharing information?
Oh, most definitely. Technology has literally liberated people, hasn't it? And brought people together. And you can have many common goals and common causes. And technology kind of amplifies that for people, which is absolutely fantastic. But also, I think it's not just young people touching on things like that. I think it's people in general touching on things like that. I think all around the world, different people are using technology to kind of boost themselves. But then again, things that you were talking about just then, like, you know, oh, I've experienced that and now everybody knows about it. I think the biggest thing and the most, I think, revealing thing is how young Black women have been treated in, like, I don't know, the fashion industry, because now we've got big corporations coming out saying Black Lives Matter. But unfortunately, your practices over the last 15 to 10 years shows that actually you do not care about us. And I think that is a bigger revelation for us. We can actually go around the world and see these people are one instant away. We're buying their products, we're at their doors, we're knocking their doors for promotional campaigns and whatnot. And then some of my sisters have just been let down by the system. Equally, I'll finish on this as well. I think we see that in football too. You know, we got some great Black footballers, but the moment they do anything, everybody's on their back. You got monkey chants happening on the field. And I'm watching this as a Black man myself saying, when are we going to get off the field? We didn't even get off the field. You're not allowed to leave the field. That's classed as losing the game. So for me, we've got such a way to go, but technology is the thing that's allowing us to see examples of bad practices that we've seen for years and spread that around. But once again, long may we go forward with that and keep targeting the people that are doing that and educating them. I'm not trying to shame anyone here, but what I'm saying is those companies need a good bit of education around their practices.
Yeah. Thank you, Noel. Thank you. I'm so glad your connection is holding, you know. I want to ask Dr. Shola just about protest. Do you think it's right to protest whilst in a pandemic, whilst under COVID? But before I say that, I'm opening the last question out for the panelists to say, what would be one solution to race and police brutality? And I know that's a huge question, but if you could give me a sound bite, if you could give me a short snippet, because I've also got to do the results of the poll, so I need to be quick. But I just want to know, because this weekend, I'm sure protests are still going to go ahead. And given that we know Black people are dying at a higher rate than white people in this pandemic, I just wanted to hear from you, Dr. Shola. Do you think it's right for people, particularly Black people, to protest at this time?
Do I think it's right? It's like asking me whether it's right to eat when I'm hungry. Do you understand? The first pandemic was racism. It dates back way more than 400 years ago. It went through the transatlantic trade to colonialism, when we got colonized in Africa and in the Afro-Caribbean islands. All of that existed. So the first pandemic is racism. Do you know how bad it must be for people to be so angry and put themselves at risk by coming out to protest in a pandemic like coronavirus? Just think about that for a second. That tells you how frustrated, how angry, how hungry they are for change. It's like, you know what? Coronavirus may kill us, not kill us, but this racism's got to end. So I understand why people have done that. I understand that coronavirus does not absolve us of our duty to speak out, because there are people dying. And you know that the institution, to your earlier question, let me just give you the right answer. The United Kingdom, the whole of the United Kingdom is institutionally racist. So don't bother asking me about police. Holmes said all of them, they're all racist, okay, period. And if you think about that, think about how they will sweep under the carpet the things that are impacting us. Boris Johnson's government released its so-called formal inquiry report into the impact of COVID on Black, Asian, ethnic minorities, and then excluded the report led by Professor Fenton that directly impacts us. Is that a person you're going to trust with your life and your liberty? Heck, even with your health? No. This is why people came out, and I don't blame them for doing so. To the audience, if you're going to do it, please social distance, okay? Gloves, sanitizer, everything you need to have, and make sure you wear double clothing, all right? Just keep those germs away. But I understand why they did it, and this is why, I mean, to Nissy Tee's point, that are you ready to die? I know I'm not telling you to go and die from coronavirus, please, God, no. What I'm saying is that it has to mean so much to you that you're ready to put yourself at risk. And that means whether it's at risk of people, speaking against you, people attacking you, I mean, verbally, trolls and all of that, and even your own people putting you down, you have to be ready to do something. So I don't blame them. I thank them because it is these protesters that have brought the global impact of George Floyd's death to the forefront. I say power to the people. It's about time.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. And thank you to those questions that were asking about, protesting and COVID-19. Jennette, you go quick, and then I'll ask the question to close.
No, definitely, I'll be quick. And I just want to just pick up what Nissy was saying. I mean, for me, I would talk about purpose. Be clear, be determined, and know your purpose, because that will take you through. And when people see your purpose, see your integrity, do you know what? They come with you. They support you. I know that for a fact. That's why I have survived politics for 40 years and still have integrity. It can be done. But I also just want to finish by saying I absolutely agree with people who say we have to see racism as a disease. And so therefore we have to then find the fault and the causes and the cesspools, and we have to clean them out. And we have got to remember, you know, some wise things. When I was younger, this was when we were being chased by police and we grew our afro because they said, have your afro on because it would stop you really feeling, or they couldn't crack your skull so quickly. I mean, it wasn't true. They still crack your skull. But Gil Scott-Heron, a fabulous artist, he said then, in a sort of very prophetic way, the revolution will be televised. And I think that is where we are now in terms of what Noah said. There is no hiding place for racists. And I say, my God, about time too. No hiding place for racists, and a time of real truth. And everybody, do you know, one of the good things, there are some good things about COVID. Let me just say this, and people can come and tell me off. It was because everybody was locked in. So they had to see that piece of televised brutality that they then couldn't deny because it was on a reel. And that has made the difference. You know, the revolution, the resistance is being televised. There is no hiding place for any racist. And I think that's our mantra. And then we're saying to them, we are coming to take you out of that place. As Dr. Shola says, you've had 500 years. That is bloody enough. Do you see, Dr. Shola? I can throw in the odd swear word as well.
Thank you so much, Jennette. Thank you. And we need your fire. 40 years on, we need that fire. We are coming to the end of our conversation. I'm going to give the results from the poll real soon. They're up now. And I don't know if everyone can see, but 58% of people, young people, said that is policy. How do we build on this moment? It's policy. And that is a huge, huge thing for young people to be saying yes. 58%, 42%, not far behind though, activism as well. And from everyone on this call, it has been that interwovenness of both policy and activism. And so to round up what has been a fire flames kind of show tonight, I just want to go round and quick fire from everyone and just hear maybe one impact against the backdrop of race and police brutality. What one impact are you doing as a solution base that perhaps other people can do as well? Frederick, who's in New York, I wondered if we could kick off with you, a one-liner, and I'll get to the others as well.
Yeah, you know, for me, I think that, again, it's not just about police brutality right now. It's about systemic racism and white supremacy. So, you know, I've been raising money to help people with their bills, their finances, and things like that during COVID-19. So we've already raised nearly $500,000 and donated to over 2,000 people, you know, around the world. So, you know, if people want to support that, follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Fred T. Joseph. And if you can't support that with financially, just amplify it. You know, we all have to do our part.
Amazing. Thank you so, so much. Yeah, maybe you guys want to drop your socials as well. Let me go over to Noel, who's on my screen. Just, one impact solution base that you're doing that other people can do as well.
I think the best thing that people can do is educate other people. So I'm trying to go on people's platforms who have quite massive followings, and I'm allowing myself to take questions. And on the other side of that, I think the best thing that people can do is just enable themselves from their houses and start having the conversation. Start getting around their peers. And lastly, I think also it's quite big that no one's really mentioned is that, you know, it's affecting people's mental health, man. This is real stuff. You're seeing black people die in the street. We're fighting outside. We're trying to die for a cause, you know, we're trying to be about it. So I'm literally with my friend Sinead and my other friend Bola Sol. We're actually trying to facilitate Black people to have, you know, mental health workshops, and we're paying for that. And we're trying to get other people in the community to help pay for that too. So if you can, you can. If not, there's other things to do, man. But power to the people. Keep doing what you're doing in Swazi. My life, man. Say thank you very much for the platform, man. You guys are doing it from here too.
I told you it's gonna come from my job. This energy, Nissy, let me jump over to you, sis. I just want to know one solution-based focus that other people can do, but also that you're doing as well.
Yeah, 100%. And can I just make it clear as well, just to say, when I say, are you willing to down the line, I don't necessarily mean just physically. I don't necessarily mean you like go to now that we need you to live, because we need you to be our next future leaders. So we need you to live, but just to have a fire that burns inside of you, that's willing to surpass the backlash, the whatever people have to say, whatever it is, just to surpass that. So just to be clear, before everyone's like, Nissy Tee told me, and they're at the front there, I'm going to die. Please, I'm not responsible for anyone's child, okay? But for me, I think the two solutions are my 2 E's, which has always been something that I'm not gonna lie, consistently been about since the beginning of my platform, which is empowerment and education. Education, please, and to every single person who is on here, if you do not understand or know what you are fighting for, you do not know how to fight accordingly. You need to understand that when you can educate yourself about what's happening around you, the many things that we don't see either. Now, I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, so I'm somebody that has so many different conspiracies and things that I read up in, and things that we can't go into now, but just the importance of, outside of even just what you are seeing on social media, because social media is great, but it doesn't necessarily always show you the full impact or message. Go and look at the stats, read books, speak to people, do things outside of that. And then that's how you can empower yourself through, again, having conversations, using your platform, but whatever it is that you need to do to empower yourself and to empower others, so that you can, like my platform, the Power Class Masterclass, the Power Class Program, Powerware Collection, everything is about power and people reclaiming the power that they already have. So yeah, my 2 E's, education and empowerment.
I like that. 2 E's at the end of Nissy Tee, you know, 2 E's, empowerment and education.
I didn't even realize that.
You see? Don't worry, I got your branding on point. Don't worry. Leroy, let me jump over to you as well, sir. I need a focused solution that you are doing, but also that others can join you in as well. You're on mute.
Sorry, I'm a bit of a technophobe, you know. Goes with the age. Listen, as I said before, Voyage Youth, picking up on what Nissy just said about education, BTEC Level 2 is accredited second to none. So assisting young people to empower themselves, to know their rights and responsibility, and to change their environment and not become a product of it. And, you know, especially through this COVID and the Black Lives Matter, to make sure they can navigate properly through, you know, all the hazards in being not only safe, but well, so that, you know, they can do the social justice activism, but with, you know, but not at the expense of social distancing or their mask and everything else. So that's one of the things. And just one other thing, really pushing that if an officer body cam is switched off, whether it's a hard-hitting arrest or any procedure, if it's switched off, not only should they be subject to discipline, they should be subject to obstructing an investigation and possibly obstructing.
Definitely.
So that's one of the big things we're pushing on.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Leroy. That is such practical advice as well. Thank you for sharing that. 2 more to go. Jennette, I'm going to come to you, and then Dr. Shola as well. Jennette, just one practical solution that people can do.
Well, I'm going to follow on from what Leroy is just saying. Seed in your experience to people like myself, Leroy. It goes back to say we can all take an action. And I'm going to take an action from Leroy, because I'm going to put that as a question to the Metropolitan Police Commissioner the next time I meet her. And that is, what is the penalty for an officer when their camera, which they fought for, we agreed to, in order for us to be able to see the truth, the camera should never be off. And can I just say, I'm going to continue, as I have done all my adult life, to speak, to address inequality to always be talking about the interoperability, and around that, underpinning that is education, as Noel has said. And then it's inclusion. We are not going to get through this or any epidemic alone. We need each other. And so we've got to learn to respect and live with each other. And we're doing some stuff, but we've got so much further to go.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jennette. Really, really good sound advice. And last but very not least, Dr. Shola, any advice, any one solution-based focus that not only you are doing, but you'd encourage others to do as well?
I would encourage others to look at where you can bridge the gap. So I'll give you as an example. I remember after the first two COVID-19 deaths came out, it occurred to me in that moment that as the government was giving out economic stimulus and all of this, trying to provide for debts and things like that, that nobody was talking about who was going to pay for the funerals of these COVID-19 deaths, right? Because families are not prepared for them and they were suffering from them. So I started a petition and it got thousands of signatures. I engaged one of the MPs, Don Butler, who wrote to Boris Johnson on my behalf and wrote to the government and said, look, basically, this is happening. Are you going to address it? I mean, this is Boris Johnson's government. What do you expect from them, right? That is an example. And I'm also part of the March for Change inquiry, demanding that the government be put to an independent inquiry into its mishandling of coronavirus. I'm saying, put your voice, put your feet, put yourself, put all that you've got behind something that you know can bring about a change, because you see that anger you have, the discomfort you have, whatever it is that is making you anxious and upset about this, you need to be able to express it somehow, somewhere. And it's not all the time you can get out on the street, but you will find that there are things happening in different places that you can lend your voice to, and maybe within your own community, your school, or at work, but just use your voice and try to make a difference.
Thank you. What a beautiful note to close tonight's discussion on. Thank you so much to all our amazing panelists and to you guys as well, to all the young people who have tuned in, who have locked in. And I said at the beginning, if you're feeling weary, come and feel refreshed. If you've not got language, come and get the language from these guys. Follow them individually on their platforms because they've got so much to speak on this topic of race and police brutality. This is My Life, My Say. This is Quarantine Question Time, a platform for young people to have their say. On the 24th of June, we'll be joined by Keir Starmer as well and myself, so lock in for that. But to Frederick Joseph, to Jennette, to Leroy, to Dr. Shola, to Noel, to Nissy Tee and Mete behind the scenes, we just want to say a massive, massive thank you. Remember to be the salt and the light because we really can come together and bring change. Everyone's looking and just blowing away, but thank you so much to everyone and good night. Yay!